Yeah. Well, now I want to turn to the My Bill segment for the rest of the show. It's hosted by Chris Course. But before I turn it over to Chris, we want to play the video for our sponsor, which is Dan Daugherty and Amy Daugherty's two magazines, S-Scale Resource and O-Scale Resource.
Welcome to the world of scale, O and S railroading. We are your resource for all O and S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O-Scale Resource and the S-Scale Resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
And that one thing that was in that video where Dan says we're bringing modeling back into model railroading. That really appealed to me because that's what NewTrax is all about. And that's one reason why I went to him to publish the articles when I first started writing them, going on 7 years ago. So thank you to Amy and thank you for Dan Daugherty for putting up with me for that period of time. Now I want to turn it over to Chris Course for the My Bill segment of our show. So Chris, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I'll get started here as soon as I can get the share screen up. And now, all right, come on. There we go. Okay, should have the share screen up, the title page there. My build of tonight, of course, is featuring you. We're going to use a holiday theme this time around. Anything that you could somehow loosely wrap into that would be is what we're after. We've got 5 participants tonight, and we will go ahead and get started. I'm your host, Chris Course. First up, we have Alex Belita. Are you up, Alex?
I am.
All right. Okay, so it looks like you've got 6 slides here.
Right. Well, thanks, Chris. Like many of you, whenever I think of Christmas, I think of snow, and there hasn't been any here in Maryland for a couple of years, and there's none on my HO layout. I do have a snowplow. I picked it up many years ago as a teenager when Ambroid models were still made and sold in hobby shops when they existed. And it was my first wooden car kit. I assembled most of the body, as you can see, but that's where I abandoned the project. I couldn't handle the part where you were supposed to take a crescent-shaped paper template to cut some really fragile scribed strip wood to form the 2 halves of the plow blade. And so the kit was stored away. Decades later, I think maybe it was 2 years ago, I decided to resurrect the model, which had been stored away with some other childhood train stuff. I needed a new approach to making that the front main plow blade, and rather than use strip wood, I had an empty metal of soft metal tube of French hand cream. And you'll see it in the next slide, what I did. I cut it to shape, flattened it, and then I cut small pieces to fit in the space for the plow. And to cover the center where the 2 halves of the new metal blades met and rested on a solid wooden form, I cut yet another long, narrow piece from the metal tube, bent it in half, and glued it over the joint. You can show the next slide, please.
Oh, all right, there we go.
Yeah, there's a better view of how it looks. So, and we can go to the next one. The small irregularities in the metal gave it I thought, a well-used look. And so I painted the whole car Brunswick green. I added some rust bricks and gave it an overall weather-beaten look. In reassembling the model, I discovered the original cupola had fallen apart and was broken. And I had an old plastic caboose dating back to one of my first childhood model train sets, removed the cupola from that car, did some trimming, added window glazing, and installed it on top of the Ambroid platform. Next slide. I decided I needed a headlight on the top in front of the cupola, and I ordered a CalScale old style steam loco headlight, painted it rust brown, and installed it. And the final touches, and you can show the next one, we're applying decals for my fictional Eureka and South Pass Railroad in Nevada, and putting an arch bar truck that I got from Tahoe Model Works on the back in the visible rear truck position. Did some additional weathering with pan pastels, Doc O'Brien's powders, and black gallery glass, and put it in my layout's yard with a couple other MOW cars, and it's ready for a snowy new year if that ever happens again. And that's my build. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks. I know I've got a few of these that are in various stages that I've purchased, and I don't think I've done anything with them. But one of these days I'll get up the courage to try them.
Yeah,
So
takes a lot.
yeah, because they are kind of intimidating. Are there any questions for Alex?
Well, I remember those old Ambroid kits. That was an Ambroid 15000, right?
Ooh,
Yes.
got me there. It was called the B&M snowplow.
Yeah. And I tell you, they may be intimidating, but they were the most fun I've had in a long time. Every time one came out, I tried to buy it.
Yeah,
They were really outstanding models, I thought.
I love it.
Alex, was that just one of those light bulb moments when you looked at that tube and said, I can use that for my snowplow?
Yeah, I could use that metal for a lot of different things. I've used it for cow catcher type material. I've used it in roofing. It's a really, I have to use more of the hand cream in order to get the next tube in use.
I'll have to remember that. Thanks.
I remember when toothpaste came in a metal
Yep.
tube and split apart and rolled out many toothpaste tubes, but they've turned them into plastic now, and you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I had noted before there used to be different kinds of stuff in tubes that were made of metal. And this is the only one I've found recently that still does that.
That's a super neat idea.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Mike in Palm Bay, Florida.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to let you know that if you see the real thing, the Down East Scenic Railroad in Hancock, Maine, just recently took delivery of a that snowplow just like this. You can go to their website, downeastscenic.org, and see the real thing. It was trucked in from up in northern Maine by CSX donated it to the Down East Scenic, and they trucked it in from their site up in northern Maine to Hancock, Maine. So anyway, just thought I'd pass that on.
Hey, thanks.
Hey,
Cool. All right. Any more questions for Alex? Well, thank you, Alex, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same to you and everyone else on board tonight.
All righty. Next up, we have Martin once again. You up, Martin?
Oh, I guess. Why not?
All right. Looks like you've got 13 slides tonight.
Yeah, well, that's your fault.
Why? Put them all on there?
Yeah, put them all on. What the heck?
All right.
Hopefully,
Very good.
hopefully in order.
I hope so.
Oh, that's a hideous slide, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little offset.
Yeah, that's okay. This is the stay with the snow moving removal theme. I built a Monson's snow spreader, Okay, so it says HON 30. Well, you know, so what? I built an O scale one in full standard scale because I decided I want one of those. I have no reason why. I just decided I want one of those. So, you know, there's plans in this article and there's plans in the Gazette somewhere. It's been published 2 or 3 times. So this is, as it turns out, one of the very rarities of my entire inventory of cars I've ever built. It actually has a real prototype. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so there's actually blades. They're brass, made up of 3 or 4 different pieces of brass, plus the hinge pieces. There's real hinges. These actually pivot on that post, and it's all soldered together. There's a curl in them, so I rolled these up on probably on a piece of dowel and soldered together. And if you go back to the plans someday, you'll see that the originals were made out of 3 or 4 pieces, and 2 straps across for the hinge and the anchor angle shaft. Next one. And this is the framework at the end. The car, lots of nut bolts and washers, but there's a lot of brass angles holding that together that have nut bolt and washer castings in it. And you can see at the top, there's a piece of brass that runs across the top. There's a piece of angle on each side. They have holes in them, and therefore that shaft for the pivot point, that's part of the hinge. Okay, next slide. Yeah, that's a better picture of the same thing. There you can see the holes at the top and bottom. Okay, so on to the next. And some truss rods that ran through the top to bottom. Always a fun thing to do. And some other brackets and pieces of brass here and there, holding it all together. And of course, probably some glue was involved. Sorry, I had to use glue. But lots of little pieces holding it together. Next. And you put the blades and put the pins in there, and they drop into place and they actually move back and forth. So now they're operational. I don't know. I felt like giving myself a good, healthy or unhealthy challenge. But they pivot back and forth. And let's go to the next slide. Different views so you can see that they go back and forth. And the up at the top, those are actually, I think, 080 nuts that actually slid over. I guess I don't know what size brass wire that is. It's brass rod, actually, I guess at this point. It's a little heavier for wire in the modeling world. Okay, next slide. And some end pieces, lots of nut bolts and washers, and the standard stuff that I tend to add to a car. There's a full underbody under this thing, and all the Grant Line stake pockets and your air hose, and more nut bolts and washers, and more nuts, bolts, and washers, and more of them. And you can see that this that frame has actually got some brass pieces that actually wrap around it and secure it down to the car body. So it's actually bolted in place to the car body with some angles. Next slide. A little bit of painting and weathering later. A slight fast forward. Lots of rust and grime and more rust, and when in doubt, add more rust. And some big logs at each end for a little bit of weight. Want to move that snow off the side. So, and I don't know if you can see it very well. Well, we'll get to it. There's another slide where you can see it, I'm pretty sure. Okay, go ahead to the next one. Well, maybe you can't. But yeah, eventually you'll see there's actually some extra slots on there. Maybe it's in the next slide. I don't remember. It's been a while. Well, not really, but you can see the extra bolts and stuff that hold this all together. The bolts actually wrap around and are through the sides. Trucks from, I guess those are the Grass River caboose trucks. I just like the way they looked on this car. One more slide, I hope.
Yep.
No, that wasn't the one I was hoping for. But
There's
more
still a few
weathering.
more, I think.
What?
there's still a few more, I think.
I hope so, because I'm looking for one specific slide that really shows where you can really go overboard and have serious pain. Go ahead. Oh, there it is. Okay, so what holds these blades from out in place? Well, there's a piece of steel in the real car, but it's actually brass in this one. And I don't have a cursor to move on this, but coming out there, you can see there's two pieces, and there's a little pin that drops into the hole that's soldered to the bracket on the back of the blade. So those are actually removable, so you can fold it in, or you can open them up and drop the pins in, and that'll hold it in place. Yeah, like I said, an exercise in suffering and pain. So you have to get the bracket on the back of the blades at the right height, so it engages with the straight rod that comes out from the body, so you can drop a pin through it, like a Lincoln pin coupler, down through the holes and hold it all in place. And that may be the last one or not.
Yeah, it is.
Hooray! So this was something really I had a lot of fun with, because it really challenged me to not burn my hands too badly with the torch, get all the brass aligned properly, and actually at the end of the day have something with hinges that actually work and little pieces that hold it all together, and a functional model.
Yeah, it looks it actually looks pretty simple until you explain that the plows actually move and you could bolt them in place. Then that's the huge element of complexity there.
Yeah, the hinge, just having hinged parts was a pain, enough pain for most people, but actually have them, most people would have built it static, so it wouldn't have to be operated. They just glue everything together and stop, so it would look like this. That's the easy way out, but I decided to inflict as much pain as possible on myself so I could have it. You could have there's four little pins that actually come in and out of that, two on each blade and two on the center off the body that hold it together. A lot of fun.
Wow.
But yeah, there's the closest thing I have for snow removal equipment. I had a snowplow once upon a time, one of those old International big nasty old brass things, and I think I sold it off. So this is my snow. This is all I got for snow. But as Alex noted, we don't get any. So
It's a neat looking car. I've never seen one like that before.
yeah, well, that seems to be one of those things I specialize in.
Yep.
If it's something everybody else has seen, I'm already bored. I want to be challenged by something I've never seen before and say, "Oh, that's cool. Never thought of that."
Neat looking car.
Yep. There we go. Next victim.
Very cool. Are there any questions for Martin?
Yeah, Martin, I have a question. In one of the early slides, it looked like the blades were already in place on the hinges with the stays soldered in place, even back further. There. How did you get those through the holes? So
Oh,
that
I had to take it apart.
So it's not all soldered together yet.
Oh, it was at this point. I had to take it apart.
Okay, just wondering.
Well, actually, that top pin does not.
Ah,
The vertical pin that runs top and bottom, actually, it's
it's
soldered.
out.
It's actually soldered to that nut at the top.
Okay,
The angled piece is, the up and down piece is loose, so
got it.
So it can actually be moved. So once it's dropped in, though, it's in.
All right, I thought this was all one piece and couldn't see how you got it through the holes,
Well,
but I know you can do magic sometimes.
my thaumaturgical skills are not what they used to be. But still fun. Still a fun exercise in assembling brass. Let's see. There's at least four pieces on the blade, and then there's two straps, and then on the back of the blade is the angle which hooks into the locking mechanism. So
Okay.
little hinges can be done. And these aren't even that little.
Yeah. Are there any more questions for Martin? All right, fantastic as always, Martin. Thank you for sharing, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all right, thank you.
Oh,
Next up is Greg.
I'm ready.
All right, looks like you got 14.
Okay.
I threw a couple extra in there on you.
Yes, I know. And
All right.
okay, I'll explain to everyone. Originally, I was just going to show a little snow scene. And I sent them to Chris. And when I gave him the story of where this building came from, he thought that was a really interesting story and that I should share it. And I agree with him. So there's a few of you that might know a gentleman named Jim Koshin, who we lost in 2020, but he grew up here in Maryland along the Western Maryland line. And once he moved to Florida, he started a business called Medford Train and offered laser cut kits, most of them featuring Western Maryland structures. But this one was a store kit that he was offering. Next slide. Now, his kit was based on this store that was in Shaw, West Virginia. And I was a good friend with Jim at the time he was developing this kit. And there were many nights that he and I would just be on our phone with the speaker on. He'd be working on building his kits, developing them, and I'd be working on modeling something. And we were talking all the time that he was coming up with this kit. And that shows you the original store and the kit itself. And we can go to the next one. Well, how I got his kit was kind of roundabout, because the one that I used is the actual kit that he built for the prototype. And it came through a friend of mine, and he ended up giving it to me after he had gotten it from Jim. And when Chris offered this build, my build for a snow scene, I thought, that store would look perfect. I've never done anything with snow before, so let me give it a try. So I took the store and said, well, I'll just do a little diorama. The first thing I decided to do was to put icicles on the building. And I had seen people make icicles out of various products. So I tried Mod Podge and a Liquitex gloss gel, and I just spread it out like this and let it dry, let it cure. And then I cut off the little icicles. The Mod Podge worked better in my case. So next slide. And then I had some trees that I never put on my layout because they weren't really that good looking. I had bought them off eBay, but I thought they'd be perfect for this snow scene. So a little hairspray, and I had picked up a container of the Woodland Scenic Snow for this project. And now my trees were dusted in snow, and I let them dry. Next slide. So I built a little foam core base, and I tacked the building onto the base and then started putting on a little bit of scenery. The Christmas tree that I have there, I got from Mini Prints a couple of years ago, and it was very difficult to paint something that small, but it came out great, and I had it sitting around ever since then, and I thought it would be perfect for this. So I went ahead and I had put the icicles on the building, and I blocked off the building and sprayed the rest of it with the hairspray. I didn't want the building to have the snow stuck on it, but I wanted the snow stuck to everywhere else. And I put in toothpicks for the holes where the trees were going to go. Next slide. And so this was it after I had sprayed it and put the trees in place and then dusted it all with snow. So the snow is stuck everywhere except on the building, but it still sits there as long as I don't turn this thing upside down. And at this point, it was pretty much done, and I just had to try and take good pictures of it, which I'm not that good at, but you'll see how they came out. Next one. So this is my building with the not perfect icicles, but it kind of worked. And the snow scene And I was pretty happy with how it came out. Next slide. And this was around back of the building. I had added the little workbench, and I like the way that the red building stood out in the snow. Next one. This is along the side of the building. I had put down a path when I was doing the diorama of some brown gravel leading from one of the back doors. And then when I put down the snow, I let it cover that footpath, but for the front one that would be more heavily used, I went ahead and brushed it off of there so that it looked like it had been shoveled a little bit. Next one. This is another shot from the back. Some of the icicles turned out pretty good, and some of them didn't. Now, I've since seen somebody make icicles out of a kind of cream, and I'm going to try that next time. I think they actually looked a little bit better. These came out looking okay, but they don't have enough weight to really hang down. They kind of end up however you glued them on. Next one. And there's our little Mini Prince tree. This was one of the first things Bernard offered in his first year that he was doing mini prints. And it basically came as two pieces. You glue the base and the tree together and then get out your finest paintbrush and paint the thing. But it was perfect for this diorama. Next one. And so that's how it came out. And I'm not going to keep it like this because it's actually quite big and I don't have enough room to store it. But by making the building so that the snow wasn't stuck to it, I can lift the building off and shake it off and it'll be back to the way it was. The icicles will pull off easy enough. And then I'll just, I guess, take the trees and the base and recycle those and use them somehow somewhere else. Any more, Chris?
Yeah, I think you've got one more. Or maybe
Oh,
one more after that.
Yeah,
Too.
there's another shot of it.
Yeah,
I
think
it's a great little kit, and I'm sorry that Medford Trains isn't around anymore. Now, I had gotten this kit back when Jim first brought it out. He sent me a copy of it since we had been talking about it so much. He even put a little bit of an interior into this one that he built. But once I got this, I ended up selling the unbuilt kit that I had to another friend of mine who had always wanted one, but wasn't able to get one. I said, well, I have a built one now. I don't need this. You can have it. So, so that's the story.
Yeah, I remember seeing that at Timonium and going, oh, I'll get one of these trips to Timonium, and yeah, it just never happened. But yeah, I'm glad you ended up with the pilot model. That's I really liked how the look of this kit, and especially that red color that he used. That just made the whole scene, the whole thing that you did just really popped.
Well, what's interesting, he built a second pilot model where this was how I took pictures. He built a second one where he painted it kind of a cream color, and he made it sort of as a general store gas station. He put some pumps in front of it, and he did a real nice diorama of that one. I don't know where that model went, but I'm sure it's floating around somewhere, and somebody is very happy with it. This was my taking pictures outside.
If you look at the Medford Trains Facebook page, it's still up, and pictures of that cream version and this one are still on there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess nobody shut it down. So
no, and unfortunately, he made a lot of kits, but there aren't many out there available anymore. I've still got a store of 4 or 5 of them that I have to build while I'm still here. So I hope I get to them. So anyway, thank you, Chris. That was my first attempt to do any kind of a snow scene, and it was a lot of fun. I was really happy about it. And I have to thank Chris. He was the one who suggested using the Woodland Scenic Snow when I was thinking of using baking soda or talcum powder or something. And this stuff came out great.
yeah, I've actually the that just you asking that question prompted me to show what I'm going to show here in a few minutes.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris, and Merry Christmas. Happy
Yes, Merry
holidays
Christmas,
to everyone.
Greg. And does anybody have any questions for Greg before we move on? No, I can't get over the simple elegance of how nicely this kit and the whole scene came out. That's
I think it's gorgeous. Really is gorgeous.
yeah. Don't take it apart, Greg. Leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, I
Find a
haven't
way.
yet because I still like it. I have to find some place for it
Yeah.
and
Find a
not
way.
sneeze anywhere around it.
Yeah. All right. So that was I guess we'll call that the intro to what I'm going to show. It's basically the what I have here is the diorama that I built up to take photos with. I had some specific requirements, and I'll actually go in depth probably next month during the My Build. This thing, I built this in 2017. It's a little ragged around the edges. As you can see, there are some spots of things that need to be cleaned off, and the little trees are all beat up. But I figured that with Greg's question, it reminded me of this diorama that I built. The whole purpose of it was so that I could basically just present something completely different to take pictures with. And this actually works. If you take pictures at the right angles, you can do it in the middle of summer. In fact, the first time that I got it out, I did that, and I was editing the pictures and ended up with a shiver going up my spine because it was basically it enveloped you. It got you into that cold environment. But it's got a lot of different products, mostly woodland scenic stuff. One of the things I did was I actually wired the track so that you can hook up either DC or DCC, and you can have some lights on there, whether you've got lit cars or an engine. You can run them up and down the track a little bit there. Just showed the sides. And you can see I'd actually put up a mountain on purpose. So that's basically when you photograph outside, you can, where I live, there's trees all around. So I can basically hide the trees with the mountain. And here's some photos, and you'll see that there's some limitations with it. Granted, I'm just using a cell phone for these, but you can see, like on the top left photo, I was able to get a decent shot of the engine, but not really the cars. I guess that's probably about what you're looking for. And then I tried a little different focus for the second photo there. And then these are some other photos I've taken over time with that scene. You know, some of them are the Conowingo Models products. I've got the general store up there, and the Fallen Angel Tavern, just basically just a little couple little buildings on the way through town. I used it most recently with the Snow Beast in the lower left corner there. I was looking at that picture. I'm like, I wonder why I even took that, because it's I guess I was just getting a little eager because if you notice, the LED headlight is sticking out of the top headlight, and the rear part of the roof isn't even glued down yet. But I think it gets my point across in that I shot that photo in the middle of the summertime. You can't even tell. It gets the point across that you're in the wintertime. And then the photo in the lower right has a few minor doctorations to it that if I had taken a little bit of time and done a better job, it would have come out a lot better. Because you've got the original the Gray Street house with the wreath on the front window, and I think there's also a wreath on the door to the depot. Oh, and there's a little bit underneath the upper window on a depot also. And I've got a snow filter that I threw on there. So thing came out pretty neat. There is a lot of Woodland Scenics products in here. Most of what you're looking at is Woodland Scenics, the The trussel, I actually made it so that the trussel has some track going into it, and that's so you can have a train coming out of it. Some of those are actual rocks. I built this mainly out the back door here, and there's a rock base that holds up the air conditioning in it, and those stupid rocks get everywhere. Well, I decided, you know what, I'll just do something with them. I glued them in place. So I kind of got my revenge on the rocks there. But some of them are rocks, some of them are Woodland Scenics pieces, like this big top piece I'm pretty sure is Woodland Scenics, and the one on the right side here is. A lot of this other stuff with the moss and weeds and foliage growing in it is those are actual rocks that I stuffed in place. Couple of other things. This is actually the last slide. So what I did manage to use some Woodland Scenics realistic water, and I had somebody at Timonium has occasionally sells molds for a pond, and I cut one out and dropped it in a place and painted it up and dropped some of that realistic water into it. And over time, after it hardened up, I painted it a little bit to make it look more like a frozen pond. And because it's been stored sideways, it caused a bulge. I actually cut a chunk of that bulge out about 6 months ago, and the bulge is still there, but you can't really tell where it was cut out. So if I do ever rejuvenate this diorama, then I'll have to fix that. But one of the things I did, and this was I used a product called Snowtex for part of it, but I found this snowflake snow. That's what Greg was asking about, and that's what kind of prompted me to do this presentation tonight. Was one of the cool things about what I did with this is if you notice, you can see it a little bit in the upper left corner here. There's a lip. Whoops, sorry. There's a lip up here, and that's basically to hold the snow in. So you can put a building in there, you can cover it in snow, and then when you're done, you can brush it off, and then take the piece of tape off of here and drop it right back into the container of snow. You can see over on the right here that there is some snow that's covering up some of the tracks on the road. So it was meant to be versatile. Basically, it gives me an opportunity to recycle that snow, do some snow shots. But I don't know. I thought it was something neat that I did about 2017, I think, is when I did it. And I don't know. There's some advantages to doing this, and there's some disadvantages, like that lip that I was just talking about in the upper left corner there that goes around. That presents some challenges when it comes to getting the angle of your camera down. So those are things that you need to think about if you should do something along these lines. All right, I've yapped long enough. Are there any questions?
It's not a question, but I think if you can find someplace to store that huge thing, I can probably find someplace to store my
Yeah.
little one.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a neat idea, though, Chris. It really was, because you can do so much with it.
Yeah, that was the point, is I wanted to be able to do a bunch of different things with this. But and I can set up a little village along the road.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
do all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. So yeah, pretty neat, I thought.
Very
does need a
nice.
little bit of work, but
Very,
all
very
right.
nice.
So we'll move on. Leonard Davis, are you up, Leonard? Okay, I don't think he's up. But he sent us some photos of a Glorcraft models kit, some stuff that he's working on. This is an old kit. It's probably older than most of us. but looks like he did a pretty decent job of it. It looks like he's got a spot for it picked out that he's going to drop it in place on his looks like a Western, like an Arizona themed layout.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, there's a Route 66 sign down in the corner there.
What
So,
scale is it, Chris?
I believe Glorcraft did just HO.
Oh, okay.
So if anybody knows any better, please let me know.
I
They
know
did,
they did
they did N scale too.
They
Oh,
also
did they?
did,
Okay.
they also did O scale
O scale, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Particularly in freight cars, I know they did O scale.
and,
'cause
and some structures.
They were neat kits though.
Yeah, usually you can tell by the tracks, but I don't know with this track. Would anybody have an idea what scale it might be?
That looks like O scale.
Yeah.
Chris, could it
does.
say on the box by chance?
No, in fact, it didn't even have the kit name on there.
Oh, yeah, I see.
It would have been on the end.
Nice looking model.
Yeah, came out really nice.
Yeah.
Like this, glad to see these old kits. Actually, we've had two of them on tonight that got pulled out and dusted off and finished up. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Like to
That's
see
great.
the old stuff.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. And if you're out there, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And all right, let's move on. The next My Build is January 17th. It is a free for all. So send us whatever you're working on. We're going to try to make this a longer show. Try to do what we can to expand into making it a full show. So send me what you've got, and we'll be sure to show it. If you're not planning on being here, then please also include a description of what you're sending us. That way we can talk about it a little bit more intelligently than I was able to tonight. So. Please get your photos to me by January 14th. That way it gives me a little bit of time to put the slideshow together. And railrunner130@hotmail.com.
Oh, boy.
All right. So upcoming challenges in February, there's oddities such as Aliens, the UFO dealership, for example, that I've referenced that a lot. That I found pictures of that quite a while ago, and I thought it was just so cool. Steampunk, jackalope skull on some backwoods engine somewhere, non-prototypical trains, depressed center flat cars, those sorts of things. And then in March, of course, we'll have just a regular show, free for all. And then in April, we'll move on to spring. Your scenery, flora, vegetations, something wild, flower boxes, vines, planting crops, basically your world awakening after winter. And I think that'll about do it for us. So I will turn it back over to you, Jim.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I think you've got some great models that you showed us tonight. And I do hope that we have a lot more people that want to participate in January and each month next year, because we know that there's a lot of interest by the modelers in what they see on the My Builds. And that's why we're going to try to expand it into a whole show next month and see where we go from there. So, Chris, thank you so very much. You have a happy holiday. Merry Christmas.